Hana Kim stepped off the transport ship and looked up at the massive space station floating in the darkness. Station Vega 7 was bigger than any city she had ever seen on Earth. Its metal walls stretched in all directions, covered with lights that blinked like stars. This was the Galactic Defense Academy, where the best fighters from across the galaxy came to train. She pulled her small bag closer to her shoulder and walked toward the entrance. Other new cadets moved around her, but none of them looked human. She saw tall beings made of what looked like living crystal, their bodies catching and reflecting the station's lights. There were insect-like creatures with 4 arms and hard shells covering their backs. Some cadets seemed to be made of flowing water, changing shape as they moved. Others looked like balls of bright energy floating through the air. Hana had known. She would be different here, but seeing it was still strange. She was one of only 3 humans accepted into the academy this year. Her people called this place the best military school in the galaxy, but to most other species, humans were just Deathworlders, dangerous beings from a planet too wild and violent for civilized life. The entrance hall was enormous. Hana's footsteps echoed on the metal floor as she walked to the registration desk. Behind the desk sat a Thrix, one of the insect-like beings. Its 4 arms moved quickly across different control panels while its large eyes watched her approach. "Name and species," the Thrix said without looking up. "Hana Kim, human," she replied. The Thrix stopped moving and stared at her. "Human?" it repeated, like the word tasted bad. "Are you sure you are in the right place? This is a military academy, not a zoo." Heat rose in Hana's face, but she kept her voice calm. "I have my acceptance letter right here." The Thrix took the letter and read it slowly. "Commander Tholvin will not be happy about this," it muttered. "Room 847, level 12. Try not to kill your roommate on the first day." Hana wanted to say something back, but she just took her room key and walked away. She had expected this kind of treatment. Earth's government had warned all 3 human cadets that they would face prejudice. Most species in the galaxy thought humans were too violent and unpredictable to be trusted with advanced military training. The elevator ride to level 12 felt very long. Hana watched the numbers change and tried to prepare herself for meeting her roommate. When the doors opened, she walked down a long hallway lined with doors until she found room 847. She pressed her key to the door and it slid open. Inside, the big room was split into 2 halves. One side was already occupied, with strange crystal formations growing from the walls and floor. The other side was empty, except for a basic bed, desk, and storage unit. A figure turned from the crystal-covered side of the room. Hana's roommate was Veltar, one of the crystal beings. She was tall and thin, with light blue crystals making up her body. When she moved, soft, musical sounds came from the crystals rubbing together. "I am Kirush," the Veltar said in a voice like wind chimes. "I requested a different roommate when I learned you were human, but my request was denied." "I'm Hana," she replied, setting her bag on the empty bed. "I hope we can get along." Kirush made a sound like breaking glass. "Humans are known for their violence and unpredictability. I will tolerate your presence, but do not expect friendship. Try to keep your savage instincts under control." With that, Kirush turned back to her crystals and ignored Hana completely. Hana unpacked her few belongings in silence, trying not to let the words hurt her. She had heard worse things about humans before, but it still stung to be judged before anyone even knew her. The next morning, Hana made her way to her first class, Basic Combat Theory. The classroom was filled with cadets from all 4 major species. She found an empty seat near the back and sat down, aware that conversations stopped as other students noticed her. Commander Tholvin entered the room, his insect legs clicking on the floor. He was a Thrix like the being at the registration desk, but much larger and more intimidating. His hard shell was covered in scars, and his large eyes swept over the class like he was looking for prey. "Welcome to Combat Theory," he said in a voice that buzzed like angry bees. "Here you will learn the principles that separate civilized warfare from mindless violence. Some of you come from species with natural discipline and control." His eyes stopped on Hana. "Others come from worlds where violence is a way of life. We will see which of you can rise above your basic nature." The class began with lessons about strategy and tactics. Commander Tholvin talked about the importance of careful planning and precise execution. He emphasized that good soldiers thought before they acted, unlike certain species that relied on brute force and aggression. Hana took careful notes and answered questions when called upon. She had studied military history and strategy since she was young, dreaming of this opportunity. Her answers were thoughtful and showed deep understanding of the material. But she noticed that Commander Tholvin seemed disappointed each time she gave a good answer, like he wanted her to fail. During a break between classes, Hana walked through the station's central plaza. It was a huge open space filled with shops, restaurants, and recreational areas. Cadets from different species gathered in small groups, but none of them invited her to join. She bought a simple meal from a food vendor and sat alone at a small table. As she ate, she overheard conversations from nearby tables. Most of the talk was normal academy gossip, complaints about difficult instructors, discussions of upcoming tests, excitement about advanced training programs. But some conversations were about her and the other humans. "I heard humans can survive injuries that would kill any civilized being," one Luxani said to another. The Luxani looked like living stars, their energy forms shifting between different colors. "That is exactly why they should not be here," replied the second Luxani. "Warriors should be precise and controlled, not mindless brutes who keep fighting, even when they should be dead." "My family says humans destroyed most of the life on their own planet," added a young Veltar. "What kind of species does that to their own home?" Hana finished her meal quickly and left the plaza. She knew some of the things they said were based on misunderstandings, but others had some truth to them. Earth was a harsh world, and humans had indeed caused a lot of damage to their environment before learning better. But that same harsh world had taught humans to be tough, adaptable, and determined. Those were good qualities for soldiers, not bad ones. Her next class was physical training, held in a large gymnasium. Instructor Lieutenant Do-Hyun Choi was there waiting for them. He was one of the few humans on the station, serving as a liaison officer between the Academy and Earth's government. "Today we will test your basic physical capabilities," Lieutenant Choi announced. "These tests will help us understand your natural abilities and limitations." The tests included running, jumping, lifting weights, and reaction time measurements. Hana participated alongside cadets from other species, but she was careful not to perform at her full capability. She had been warned that showing too much strength or speed might frighten the other students and confirm their fears about human savagery. Still, even holding back, she performed better than most of her classmates. Her times were faster, her jumps were higher, and she lifted more weight. The other cadets watched her with expressions ranging from surprise to suspicion. After the tests, Lieutenant Choi approached her privately. "You are holding back," he said quietly in Korean, so the other cadets could not understand. "I do not want to scare them," Hana replied in the same language. "I understand, but remember why you are here. You need to prove that humans belong in this academy. That means showing your capabilities, not hiding them." That evening, Hana sat at her desk in her room, reviewing the day's lessons. Kirash was on her side of the room, tending to her crystal formations. The Veltar had not spoken to her since their first meeting. As Hana worked, she thought about Lieutenant Choi's words. She had come to the academy to prove that humans could be good soldiers and valuable allies. But how could she do that if she was afraid to show what humans could really do? The problem was that humans were different from other species in ways that made them seem dangerous. They were stronger, faster, and tougher than most other intelligent beings. They could survive injuries and keep fighting in situations where others would give up or die. These abilities came from millions of years of evolution on a world that was constantly trying to kill them. But being tough did not make humans evil or savage. It just made them different. Hana hoped that over time her classmates would see that difference as a strength rather than a threat. Outside her window, the stars shone in the endless darkness of space. Somewhere among those stars was Earth, the world that had shaped her, people into what they were. She was here to represent not just herself, but all of humanity. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, and she would face them with the determination that had carried humans from the caves of Earth to the stars themselves. The Academy would test her in ways she could not yet imagine. But Hana Kim was ready for whatever came next. 3 weeks had passed since Hana arrived at the Academy. She had settled into a routine of classes, training, and study sessions. Her grades were excellent, but the social isolation continued. Most cadets still avoided her, and Kirish spoke to her only when absolutely necessary. Today was different, though. They were having their first major joint exercise, a zero-gravity combat simulation in the Academy's largest training chamber. All first-year cadets would participate, working in mixed teams to complete objectives while floating in weightless conditions. Hana floated near the edge of the preparation area, checking her gravity harness for the 3rd time. The harness was a complex piece of equipment that allowed cadets to move safely in zero gravity. Small thrusters on the sides could push them in different directions, while safety lines would activate if someone drifted too far from the main exercise area. "Human?" called a voice behind her. Hana turned to see another cadet floating nearby. He was also human, with short black hair and the kind of serious expression that made him look older than his years. "I am June Park," he said, extending his hand. "I think we have not been properly introduced." "Hana Kim," she replied, shaking his hand. It felt good to speak with another human after weeks of cold shoulders and suspicious looks. "Have you noticed that we 3 humans always end up on different teams?" June asked quietly. Hana had noticed. Every exercise and group project seemed designed to keep the human cadets separated. "I think it is intentional," she said. "So do I. They want to see how we perform without human support." June looked around the chamber at the other floating cadets. "Today I am paired with a Morden named Fluxara. What about you?" "A Luxani called Prime Doll and a Veltar named Ice Shard," Hana replied. Both of her teammates had made it clear they considered her a liability. The exercise instructor, a Thrix sergeant, began explaining the mission. Teams would navigate through a complex maze of floating obstacles while under simulated enemy fire. They had to reach 3 different objectives, collect data packages, and return to the starting point. The catch was that the enemy fire would actually disable their gravity harnesses if they were hit, leaving them floating helplessly until rescue. "This exercise tests your ability to work as a team under pressure," the sergeant announced. "Coordination and trust are essential. One careless teammate can doom the entire mission." Hana caught the way several cadets looked at her when the sergeant mentioned careless teammates. She gritted her teeth and focused on the mission ahead. The teams launched into the maze one by one. When Hana's turn came, she activated her thrusters and followed Prime Doll and Isashard into the obstacle course. The chamber was enormous, filled with floating metal barriers, rotating platforms, and holographic enemy positions that fired stunning energy beams. Prime Doll, the Luxani, glowed brighter as they moved deeper into the maze. The energy being could shift between different forms, making it excellent at squeezing through tight spaces. Isashard, the Veltar, used crystal growths to anchor the team to solid surfaces when they needed to stop and plan their next move. "The first objective is through that narrow passage," Prime Doll said, pointing with a tendril of energy. "I can. Scout ahead, but someone needs to stay here and watch for enemies." "I will go," Hana offered. "No," Isashard said firmly. "Your species is too clumsy for delicate work. Stay here and try not to crash into anything." Hana bit back her reply and watched as Prime Doll flowed through the passage like liquid light. The Luxani was fast and graceful, easily avoiding the simulated enemy fire. But as Prime Doll reached for the first data package, something went wrong. Mechanical failure caused one of the rotating platforms to spin much faster than it should have. Prime Doll was caught in its gravitational field and pulled toward the spinning metal surface. The Luxani's energy form began to destabilize from the rapid rotation. "Help!" Prime Doll called out, but Isashard was too far away to reach the trapped cadet in time. Hana did not hesitate. She fired her thrusters at maximum power and shot through the narrow passage. The space was barely wide enough for her human body, and the walls scraped against her training suit as she pushed through. Enemy fire lit up around her, but she ignored it. She reached Prime Doll just as the Luxani's form began to tear apart from the spinning forces. Humans could not touch Luxani energy directly without special equipment, but Hana grabbed a metal beam near the platform and used it to knock Prime Doll away from the dangerous rotation. The effort sent both of them tumbling through space, but Prime Doll's energy form stabilized as soon as they were clear of the spinning platform. They floated together for a moment, both breathing hard. "You saved me," Prime Doll said, the energy being's voice full of surprise. "But you could have been seriously hurt." "That is what teammates do," Hana replied simply. They completed the first objective and moved on to the second. This time, all 3 team members worked together more smoothly. HFY created crystal anchors while Hana provided covering fire, and Prime Doll used superior speed to collect the data package. But as they approached the third objective, disaster struck again. June Park's team was working on the same objective from a different direction. His Mordoon teammate, Fluxara, was attempting to reach a data package mounted high on the chamber wall. Fluxara was a water-based being, able to change shape and flow through small spaces like Prime Doll. But the Mordoon's gravity harness malfunctioned, sending the cadets spinning out of control toward a cluster of sharp metal obstacles. June tried to reach his teammate, but his own harness was damaged by enemy fire. He floated helplessly as Fluxara spun toward what could be a fatal collision. Hana saw the accident happening and made a split-second decision. She fired her thrusters again, this time pushing herself away from her own team toward the spinning Mordoon. The distance was too great. She would never reach Fluxara in time using just the harness thrusters. But humans had advantages that other species lacked. Hana pulled off her gravity harness entirely and threw it aside. Then she grabbed a piece of floating debris and used it to push herself faster through the zero-gravity environment. It was an incredibly dangerous move. Without the harness, she had no safety line and no easy way to control her movement. She caught Fluxara just before the Mordoon hit the metal obstacles. The collision with the water being sent them both tumbling. But Hana managed to use her own body to absorb most of the impact against the chamber wall. They floated together, both stunned by the impact. Fluxara's water form rippled with what looked like distress, but the Mordoon was alive and uninjured. "You removed your safety harness?" Fluxara said in a voice like flowing water. "That was extremely dangerous." "But it worked," Hana replied, rubbing her shoulder where she had hit the wall. Rescue teams quickly arrived to help both cadets back to safety. As they floated toward the exit, Fluxara spoke quietly to Hana. "I have heard many stories about humans and their violence." "The Mordoon said, but what you did was not violent, it was brave." Word of the rescue spread quickly through the academy. By evening, everyone knew that the human cadet had risked her own safety to save 2 alien teammates. Some cadets began to look at Hana differently, with curiosity rather than just suspicion. But not everyone was pleased with the day's events. That night, as Hana studied in the library, she overheard a heated conversation between several cadets at a nearby table. "Did you see what that human did today?" said a voice she recognized as Prime Doll. "She threw away her safety equipment like it meant nothing. What kind of rational being does that?" "Exactly my point," replied another voice. Ice Shard. "Humans are too unpredictable. They take insane risks that put everyone in danger." "But she saved Fluxara's life," argued a third voice that Hana did not recognize. "This time," Ice Shard said, "but what happens when her reckless instincts get someone killed instead of saving them? Humans do not think before they act. They just react with violence and aggression." Hana closed her books and left the library quietly. The conversation stung because it showed how even her good actions were being twisted into evidence against her species. When humans helped others, they were called reckless. When they held back, they were called cowards. It seemed like there was no way to win. Back in her room, she found Kirash working at her desk. For the first time since they had become roommates, the Veltar looked up when Hana entered. "I heard about what happened today," Kirash said in her musical voice. Hana nodded but said nothing. She was tired of defending herself and her species. "Fluxara came to see me this evening," Kirash continued. "The Mordoon wanted to know more about humans after what you did. I told Fluxara that I do not know humans well enough to explain your actions." "What do you want to know?" Hana asked, sitting on her bed. Kirash was quiet for a long moment. "Why did you risk yourself for beings who have treated you poorly?" It was a fair question. Both Prime Doll and Fluxara had been cold to Hana before the accident. They had made it clear they considered humans dangerous and unwelcome at the academy. Because it was the right thing to do, Hana said. On Earth, we have a saying. We judge others by their actions, but we judge ourselves by our intentions. I do not care if Primedal and Fluxara like me. I care about doing what is right. Kirish made. The sound that Hana had learned meant deep. 2 months had passed since the zero-gravity exercise, and things at the academy had begun to change for Hana. Some cadets now nodded to her in the hallways, and a few even sat near her during meals. Fluxara had become something close to a friend, often defending humans when other cadets made negative comments. Even Kirish had started asking Hana questions about Earth and human culture, but not everyone was warming up to the human cadets. Hana had noticed that certain groups of students seemed more hostile than ever. They whispered when she passed by and gave her dark looks during training exercises. She tried to ignore it, focusing instead on her studies and the upcoming final combat assessment. The final assessment was the most important test at the academy. It would determine which cadets graduated to advanced training and which ones were sent home. For the human cadets, it was more than just a test. It was their chance to prove that humans belonged in the galactic military. Hana was reviewing tactical manuals in the library when someone sat down across from her. She looked up to see Ray Song, the third human cadet. Ray was smaller than Hana and June, with quick, intelligent eyes and a talent for information gathering. She was training in the intelligence track rather than direct combat. "We need to talk," Ray said quietly, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. "Somewhere private." They made their way to an empty study room and sealed the door behind them. Ray activated a small device that would block electronic surveillance, a piece of equipment from her intelligence classes. "I have been monitoring communications across the academy," Ray began. "It is part of my training in signals intelligence. 3 days ago, I started noticing unusual patterns in some cadet communications." She pulled out a datapad and showed Hana a series of encrypted messages. "These are coded communications between 3 specific cadets. I managed to break the encryption yesterday, and what I found is very bad news for us." Hana leaned forward to read the messages. As she read, her blood grew cold. The messages were between Razorclaw, a Thrix cadet known for his aggressive attitudes, Icy Shard, Hana's former teammate who had never gotten over her dislike of humans, and Primedal, despite being saved by Hana, had apparently decided that humans were still too dangerous for the academy. The messages revealed a plan to eliminate the human cadets during the final combat assessment. They had somehow obtained modified training weapons that fired real plasma rounds instead of harmless training beams. During the exercise, they would target the 3 humans and kill them, then claim it was self-defense against unpredictably violent Deathworlders. "There is more," Ray said, showing Hana additional messages. "They have support from some political groups outside the academy, council members who want to ban humans from military service entirely. This incident would give them the excuse they need." Hana felt sick as she read the details. The plan was carefully thought out, with backup stories prepared and evidence planted to make it look like the humans had attacked first. The 3 conspirators had even arranged for their modified weapons to be switched back to normal ones after the killings, making it impossible to prove what had really happened. "We have to report this," Hana said. "I tried," Ray replied. "I sent the evidence to Lieutenant Choi, but he is off station on a diplomatic mission. I tried to reach other human contacts, but there are bureaucratic delays blocking every channel. The final assessment is tomorrow morning. By the time anyone in authority looks at this evidence, we could all be dead." Hana stared at the datapad, trying to think of options. "What about the academy commanders? Surely they would not allow cadets to be murdered." "The evidence points to Commander Tholvin being involved," Ray said grimly. "Not directly, but some of his communications suggest he knows what is planned and approves of it. He has made no secret of his belief that humans do not belong here." They sat in silence for several minutes, both understanding the terrible situation they faced. If they participated in the final assessment, they might be killed. If they refused to participate, they would be dismissed from the academy, and humans would be branded as cowards. "There is one more thing," Ray said. "June needs to know about this. I tried to find him earlier, but he was in advanced combat training. The session should be ending soon." They found June in the armory, cleaning his training weapons after a long practice session. When they told him about the conspiracy, his face grew grim but unsurprised. "I suspected something like this might happen," he said. "Some of the instructors have been pushing us harder than the other cadets, like they are trying to find excuses to fail us. And I have noticed that certain cadets always seem to know our training schedules and locations." The three humans stood together in the empty armory, surrounded by weapons and training equipment. They all understood that tomorrow's assessment would likely determine not just their own fates, but the future of human participation in galactic military forces. "We could withdraw from the assessment," Ray suggested. "Claim illness or equipment. Failure. That would just delay the problem," June said. "They would find another opportunity, and next time, we might not have advance warning. Besides," Hana added, "if we withdraw, it proves their point that humans are cowards who cannot handle real military challenges. So what do we do?" Ray asked. Hana thought about all the conversations she had heard over the past months, the fear that humans were too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous to be trusted with advanced military training. The conspiracy planned to use those fears against them, turning their supposed violence into a weapon. "We go through with the assessment," she said finally. "But we go in knowing what to expect." "That is suicide," Ray protested. "They have real weapons. We will only have training equipment." "Maybe," Hana said, "but humans have survived worse odds before. Earth taught us to adapt to dangerous situations. This is just another dangerous situation." June nodded slowly. "If we can survive their ambush and expose the conspiracy, it would prove that humans can handle military challenges. It might even convince the Academy leadership that we belong here." "And if we cannot survive?" Ray asked. "Then at least we will die trying to do the right thing," Hana replied. "That is also very human." They spent the rest of the evening planning. Ray would document everything and try to transmit evidence to human authorities, even if the transmissions were blocked. June would focus on protecting the group and finding ways to turn the environment to their advantage. Hana would be the primary target, so she would need to be ready for the worst. They also discussed the larger implications of what they faced. This was not just about three human cadets. It was about whether humans would be accepted as equals in galactic society or forever branded as dangerous primitives. Their actions tomorrow would be judged by billions of beings across the galaxy. As they prepared to leave the armory, Ray pulled out another device, a small emergency beacon. "If things go very badly tomorrow, this will send a distress signal directly to Earth Command," she said. "It bypasses all local communication blocks, but it can only be used once. Save it for when we really need it," Hana said. That night, Hana lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling. Kirish was on the other side of the room, her crystal body glowing softly in the darkness. The Veltar had been more friendly lately, but Hana wondered how her roommate would react when news of tomorrow's events spread through the Academy. She thought about her family back on Earth. Her parents had been so proud when she was accepted to the Academy. They had seen it as proof that humans could succeed anywhere in the galaxy. Tomorrow, she might prove them right, or destroy their dreams forever. The final combat assessment would take place in the Academy's largest training facility, a multi-level complex designed to simulate urban warfare. It was filled with obstacles, hiding places, and multiple routes between objectives. The environment would be both an advantage and a disadvantage. It would give the conspirators places to set up ambushes, but it would also give the humans opportunities to use their natural adaptability. Hana had read about the assessment procedures many times. Teams would be given objectives scattered throughout the facility and would have 6 hours to complete as many as possible. They would face simulated enemies, environmental hazards, and time pressure. The normal version used training weapons that caused temporary paralysis when they hit a target. But tomorrow's version would be different. 3 cadets would be carrying weapons that could kill, and they would be hunting human targets. As the night wore on, Hana found herself thinking about Lieutenant Choi's words from months ago. "You need to prove that humans belong in this academy. That means showing your capabilities, not hiding them." Tomorrow she would definitely be showing her capabilities. The question was whether she and her fellow humans would survive long enough for anyone to witness what they could really do. The Academy's artificial day cycle began to brighten outside her window. Soon, alarms would sound to wake the cadets for the final assessment. Hana closed her eyes and tried to rest, knowing that the next few hours would determine everything. She had come to the academy to prove that humans could be good soldiers. Tomorrow, she would discover just how good they really were. The morning alarms echoed through the academy at exactly 0600 hours. Hana was already awake, having spent most of the night reviewing the facility maps that Ray had managed to obtain. She dressed quickly in her combat training uniform and checked her equipment one final time. Kirash was getting ready on her side of the room, her crystal body reflecting the morning lights. "Today is the final assessment," the Veltar said, her voice carrying notes of nervousness. "Yes," Hana replied, attaching her training weapons to her belt. "Are you ready?" "I have prepared as much as possible," Kirash answered. "What about you? You seem very calm for someone facing such an important test." Hana paused in her preparations. She had grown to respect her roommate over the past months, despite their difficult start. "Kirash, whatever happens today, I want you to know that I am grateful for your friendship." The Veltar's crystals chimed softly, a sound of surprise. "Friendship? I thought I had been quite cold to you." "At first, yes, but you changed. You gave me a chance to prove myself. That means more than you know." They walked together toward the training facility, joining streams of other cadets heading to the same destination. The building was enormous, rising 12 levels above the station deck and extending several levels below. Its exterior was covered with sensors and defensive systems designed to monitor the exercises inside. At the facility entrance, Commander Tholvin waited with other instructors. His insect eyes swept over the assembled cadets as he began his briefing. "Today you face your final assessment," he announced, his voice buzzing with authority. "This exercise will test everything you have learned about tactics, teamwork, and survival. You will be divided into teams and given objectives throughout the facility. Complete as many objectives as possible within 6 hours." He paused, his gaze lingering on the 3 human cadets. "Some of you may find this exercise more challenging than others. Remember that in real combat, there is no mercy for those who cannot adapt to changing circumstances." The cadets were divided into mixed teams, but Hana noticed that she, June, and Ray were placed on different teams as usual. Hana found herself grouped with 2 cadets she barely knew, a quiet Luxani named Brightstar and a nervous Morden called Swift Current. As they entered the facility, Hana studied the environment carefully. The first level was designed to look like a city street, with buildings, vehicles, and obstacles creating a complex maze of potential cover and danger. Higher levels represented different environments: industrial complexes, residential areas, and military installations. Her team was assigned objectives on levels 3, 7, and 10. The objectives were scattered throughout the facility, requiring them to move through multiple environments and face different types of challenges. It was exactly the kind of complex scenario that would allow the conspirators to set up their ambush. "We should start with the level 3 objective," Brightstar suggested. "It is closest to our starting position." Hana nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. She was watching other teams, looking for signs of the conspiracy. She spotted Razorclaw, Isashard, and Prime Doll moving as a coordinated group despite being on different teams. They were carrying standard training weapons, but Hana knew those weapons had been modified. The exercise began with a loud buzzer. Teams scattered throughout the facility, moving toward their assigned objectives. Hana's team climbed to level 3, where they found themselves in what looked like an abandoned factory. Their objective was to locate and retrieve a data package, hidden somewhere in the maze of machinery and conveyor belts. As they searched, Hana kept alert for signs of danger. The facility's sound dampeners made it difficult to hear what was happening on other levels, but she could occasionally catch echoes of combat exercises, the whine of training weapons, and the shouts of cadets engaging simulated enemies. They found their first objective hidden inside a large machine housing. As Brightstar worked to extract the data package, Swift Current provided security watch while Hana studied the facility maps. If the conspirators were going to strike, it would probably be when the human teams were separated and focused on their objectives. "Got it," Brightstar announced, holding up the data package. "Where to next?" "Level 7, Hana said, but something in the back of her mind was bothering her. The facility seemed too quiet. In a normal exercise with this many cadets, there should be more noise, more activity. They moved toward the stairwell leading to level 7. As they climbed, Hana heard something that made her freeze. the distinct sound of real plasma weapons. Firing, not training weapons. The sound was deeper, more powerful, and left a lingering ozone smell in the air. "Did you hear that?" she asked her teammates. "Hear what?" Swift Current replied. The Morduns' water-based hearing was different from human hearing. Hana realized that the conspirators might have started their plan earlier than expected. Somewhere in the facility, real weapons were being fired. She had to warn June and Ray, but the communication systems were jammed during exercises to prevent cheating. They reached level 7, which was designed to look like a residential area with apartments, shops, and narrow streets. Their objective was hidden in one of the apartment buildings, requiring them to search through multiple rooms while avoiding simulated civilian casualties. As they moved through the artificial streets, Hana caught sight of movement on a nearby rooftop. 3 figures were positioned there, carrying weapons and watching the streets below. Even from a distance, she recognized them: Razorclaw, Ice Shard, and Prime Doll. They were not working on their own objectives. They were hunting. "We need to move faster," Hana told her teammates urgently. "Why?" "We have plenty of time," Bright Star said. Before Hana could answer, plasma fire erupted from the rooftop. But these were not training beams. They were real plasma. Bolts that seared through the air and melted holes in the concrete walls around them. "Take cover!" Hana shouted, diving behind a concrete barrier. Her teammates followed, their expressions shocked and confused. "Those are real weapons," Swift Current said in disbelief. "This is supposed to be a training exercise." "Someone is trying to kill us," Hana replied grimly. She peered around the barrier and saw the 3 conspirators moving to new positions, trying to get better angles for their shots. More plasma fire struck near their position. Hana realized that her teammates were in danger because of her. The conspirators wanted to kill humans, but they might hurt innocent cadets in the process. "You two need to get out of here," she told Bright Star and Swift Current. "Find emergency exits and get to safety." "We cannot leave you alone," Bright Star protested. "You can, and you will," Hana said firmly. "This is not your fight. Go, now." The 2 alien cadets looked uncertain, but another burst of plasma fire convinced them. They ran toward the nearest exit while Hana provided covering fire with her training weapon. The training beams would not hurt the conspirators, but they might distract them long enough for her teammates to escape. Once Bright Star and Swift Current were safely away, Hana found herself alone on level 7 with 3 well-armed enemies, hunting her. She moved carefully through the artificial streets, using her knowledge of the facility layout to stay ahead of their search pattern. But the conspirators knew the facility as well as she did, and they had the advantage of real weapons. They began herding her toward a dead-end section of the level, cutting off her escape routes one by one. Hana realized she was being driven toward a trap. The dead-end area had only one way in or out, and once she was inside, the conspirators could surround her and finish their plan. But she had no choice. All other routes were blocked by plasma fire. She entered the dead-end area and found herself in what looked like a small plaza surrounded by tall buildings. There was a single heavy blast door at the far end, an emergency exit that led to the facility's maintenance areas. The blast door was sealed, as all exits were during exercises, but it was also her only hope of escape. Behind her, she heard the conspirators entering the plaza. Their footsteps echoed off the artificial walls as they moved to surround her position. "Human!" Razorclaw called out, his voice buzzing with satisfaction. "You cannot run anymore. Surrender now, and we will make your death quick." "Why?" Hana called back, buying time while she examined the blast door. "What did we ever do to you?" "Your species exists," Ice Shard replied, her crystal voice ringing with hatred. "That is crime enough. Deathworlders have no place among civilized beings. You saved my life once," Prime Doll added, and Hana could hear movement as the 3 conspirators positioned themselves for the final attack. "I should thank you for that. But one act of kindness does not change what humans are. Violent primitives who threaten everything good in the galaxy." Hana touched the blast door's control panel, but it was locked tight. The door was designed to withstand explosions and could not be opened during exercises except by authorized personnel. It was made of reinforced metal, too thick to break and too heavy to move. "Come out where we can see you!" Razor Claw demanded. Face your death with whatever honor your species possesses. Instead of answering, Hana drew her training weapon and stepped into view. The three conspirators were spread across the plaza, their real plasma weapons aimed at her. They smiled as they saw her apparently helpless situation. Drop your weapon. Ice shard, or the sound of the blast door being torn from its hinges echoed through the entire training facility like thunder. The metal screaming against metal was so loud that it penetrated the sound dampeners and reached every level of the building. Throughout the facility, cadets and instructors stopped what they were doing and looked toward the source of the impossible noise. In the plaza, Hana stood facing the three conspirators while holding the massive door. The weight was enormous, but her adrenaline and determination made it feel manageable. Behind her, the torn opening led to maintenance corridors that would allow her to escape or call for help. But she was not thinking about escape anymore. She was thinking about justice. Razor Claw, Isa Shard, and Prime Doll stared at her in shock. Their plasma weapons were still raised, but they seemed frozen by what they had witnessed. No being in the galaxy should have been able to tear apart a blast door with their bare hands. It went against everything they thought they knew about the physical laws of the universe. You cannot be real, Razor Claw whispered, his insect voice trembling. No creature has that kind of strength. You wanted to see what humans are really capable of, Hana replied, her voice steady despite the pain from her wounds. Now you know. The facility's emergency alarms began to sound. The destruction of a blast door had triggered automatic safety. Systems and rescue teams would already be responding to the alert. Soon, the plaza would be filled with Academy personnel. Prime Doll raised his weapon again, but his energy form was flickering with uncertainty. You are a monster. This proves that humans should never have been allowed in civilized space. No, said a new voice from the entrance to the plaza. This proves that we never understood what we were judging. Everyone turned to see Fluxara entering the plaza, accompanied by several other cadets. The Mordoon's water form was moving faster than Hana had ever seen, flowing across the ground toward the scene of the confrontation. We heard the explosion, Fluxara continued, taking in the scene, the torn blast door, Hana's plasma wounds, the three conspirators with their illegal weapons. What is happening here? Stay back, Isa Shard warned, turning her weapon toward the new arrivals. This is Academy business. Murder is not Academy business, said another voice. Kirash stepped into the plaza, her crystal body reflecting the emergency lights. Behind her came more cadets, including some that Hana recognized as being hostile. To humans in the past, the conspirators found themselves surrounded by witnesses to their crime. Razor Claw's weapon swung wildly between targets, clearly panicking at how the situation had changed. You do not understand, he buzzed frantically. Humans are dangerous. They will destroy everything we have built if we let them spread through the galaxy. We were protecting civilization. By committing murder? Fluxara's voice was like angry rapids. By using illegal weapons in a training exercise, you are the ones destroying what we have built. Heavy footsteps announced the arrival of Academy security forces. Commander Tholvin entered the plaza first, followed by other instructors and armed security officers. But when the Thrix commander saw the scene, he stopped abruptly. His insect eyes took in the torn blast door, the bleeding human cadet, and the three conspirators holding plasma weapons. For a moment, his expression was unreadable. Then Hana saw something that surprised her: disappointment and shame. Lower your weapons, Commander Tholvin ordered the three conspirators. This exercise is terminated. Commander, you know this. Was necessary, Razor Claw said desperately. We discussed the human problem. You agreed that something had to be done. I agreed that humans might not belong in this academy, Commander Tholvin replied coldly. I never agreed to murder. Lower your weapons now, or security will lower them for you. Faced with overwhelming opposition, the three conspirators finally surrendered their illegal weapons. Security officers moved quickly to secure them, while medics rushed to treat Hana's wounds. But as the medics examined her, their expressions grew increasingly amazed. These wounds should be fatal, one of them muttered to another. Look at the plasma burn patterns. Any other species would have died instantly from any one of these hits. How are you still conscious? The lead medic asked Hana directly. Human physiology, Hana replied simply. She was starting to feel the full effects of her injuries now that the immediate danger was over, but she remained alert and aware. More Academy personnel arrived, including Colonel Minwoo Kang, the human liaison officer who had just returned from his diplomatic mission. When he saw Hana's condition and the evidence of the attack, his face darkened with anger. "Lieutenant Choi's emergency message finally reached me," he said to Commander Tholvin. "We came as quickly as possible, but it seems we were almost too late." Admiral Crystal Mind, the Academy's Veltar Commandant, arrived with a full investigation team. Her crystal body rang with harmonics of distress as she surveyed the scene. "Explain to me how 3 cadets obtained illegal weapons and used them to attack their classmates," she demanded. The investigation that followed was swift and thorough. Security footage showed the conspirators modifying their weapons in secret workshops. Communication records revealed their planning and their connections to anti-human political groups. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. But what shocked the investigators most was the medical data from Hana's treatment. Dr. Yejin Lim, the human medical officer, arrived to assist with her care and had to explain human physiology to the alien medical staff. These wounds would kill any Veltar, Thrix, Morden, or Luxani instantly, Dr. Lim told the assembled investigators. But humans evolved on a world that was constantly trying to kill them. Their bodies developed incredible resistance to trauma. Chassor showed medical scans of Hana's injuries. "Look at how her body has already begun healing. The plasma burns are sealing themselves, her blood loss has stabilized, and her brain function remains normal despite trauma that would cause other species to go into immediate shock." Admiral Crystal Mind studied the medical data with growing amazement. "This is not aggression or violence," she said slowly. "This is adaptation. Your species developed these capabilities for survival, not conquest." "Exactly," Colonel Kang replied. "Humans seem dangerous because they can survive things that would kill others. But that does not make them evil or savage. It makes them resilient." As the immediate crisis passed, more cadets gathered in the plaza to see what had happened. Word spread quickly through the Academy about the attack and Hana's impossible survival. But instead of fear, many cadets showed curiosity and even admiration. Brightstar and Swift Current, Hana's teammates who had escaped the initial attack, pushed through the crowd to reach her. "You saved our lives," Brightstar said, his energy form glowing brighter than usual. "You made us leave so we would not be hurt." "That is what teammates do," Hana replied, echoing what she had said to Prime Doll months earlier during the zero-gravity exercise. Swift Current's water form rippled with emotion. "I have been afraid of humans since I came to this academy. I believed the stories about your violence and unpredictability. But you protected us, even when it meant facing deadly enemies alone." Other cadets began speaking up, sharing their own thoughts about what they had witnessed. Many admitted that they had prejudged humans based on fear and misunderstanding. "I thought humans were savage because they could fight when injured," said one young Thrix. "Now I see that this makes them better protectors, not worse enemies." Even some cadets who had been part of the anti-human sentiment began to reconsider their positions. The sight of Hana standing over 3 armed attackers while protecting innocent teammates had challenged everything they thought they knew about human nature. Commander Tholvin approached Hana as the medics finished their initial treatment. The Thrix instructor looked uncomfortable but determined. "Cadet Kim," he said formally, "I owe you an apology. I allowed my prejudices to cloud my judgment about your species. What you demonstrated today was not savage violence. It was courage and strength used to protect others." He paused, his insect features showing unusual emotion. "I have recommended to Admiral Crystal Mind that you receive the Academy's highest honor for valor under fire. You have proven that humans not only belong in this Academy, but that the Academy is better for having them." As emergency teams began clearing the plaza, Fluxara approached Hana one final time. "You could have used that strength to hurt your attackers," the Mordon observed. "You tore apart a blast door with your bare hands. You could have done the same to them, but you chose not to. Why?" Hana thought about the question carefully. She could have used the heavy door as a weapon. Her anger had been strong enough, and her injuries had triggered every human survival instinct. It would have been easy to strike back with lethal force, because proving we can be dangerous is not the same as proving we should be dangerous, she said finally. Anyone can destroy things. It takes wisdom to know when not to. That night, as Hana recovered in the Academy Medical Center, she received an unexpected visitor. Kirash entered her room carrying a small crystal formation that glowed with soft, healing light. "This is a gift from my people," the Veltar said, placing the crystal on Hana's bedside table. "It will help your body heal faster." "Thank you," Hana said. "But why? This morning you barely speak." 6 months had passed since the attack in the training facility. The academy looked the same from the outside, but everything had changed within its walls. Where once there had been suspicion and fear toward human cadets, now there was respect and curiosity. The blast door that Hana had torn apart had been replaced, but a small memorial plaque nearby honored her courage and marked the beginning of a new era at the academy. Graduation day arrived with great ceremony. The main assembly hall was filled with cadets, instructors, and families from across the galaxy. Hana stood in formation with her graduating class, wearing the crisp uniform of a new officer in the Galactic Defense Force. The insignia on her collar showed her new rank, Lieutenant Junior grade. Admiral Crystalmind took the stage to address the graduating cadets. Her crystal body caught the hall's lights and threw rainbow patterns across the walls as she spoke. "This class has faced challenges that tested not only your military skills but your character," the Admiral began. "You have learned that true strength comes from protecting others, not from defeating enemies. You have discovered that diversity makes us stronger, not weaker." Her musical voice carried clearly through the hall. "Today, you leave this academy as officers in the Galactic Defense Force. But more importantly, you leave as examples of what different species can accomplish when they work together with mutual respect and understanding." When Hana's name was called, she stepped forward to receive her commission. Admiral Crystalmind personally handed her the officer's insignia and spoke quietly so only Hana could hear. "Lieutenant Kim, your actions have changed this academy forever. More importantly, they have changed how the galaxy sees humanity. Use your new authority wisely." "I will, Admiral," Hana replied, saluting crisply. As she returned to formation, Hana caught sight of familiar faces in the audience. Her parents had traveled from Earth to attend the ceremony, along with dozens of other human families. But there were also alien families present, parents and relatives who had come to celebrate their children's achievements alongside the humans they had once feared. After the ceremony, the new graduates gathered for a reception in the Academy's main plaza. Hana found herself surrounded by classmates and instructors wanting to congratulate her and share their thoughts about the changes at the Academy. Fluxara approached with 2 other Mordun who Hana did not recognize. "Lieutenant Kim, I would like you to meet my parents. They wanted to thank the human who taught their child about true courage." The elder Mordun's water form shimmered with formal patterns as they spoke. "Our species has ancient stories about warriors who protect others at great cost to themselves. We thought such beings were mythical until we heard about your actions. Your daughter is the real hero," Hana replied. She stood up for what was right when others were afraid to speak. Kirash joined the group, her crystal body now decorated with honor markings that showed her high academic achievements. "Hana, there is someone else who wants to meet you." She led Hana across the plaza to where a group of young cadets stood nervously. These were first-year students, newly arrived at the academy. Among them, Hana was surprised to see 2 humans, a young woman and a young man who could not have been more than 18 years old. "Lieutenant Kim," Kirash said formally, "may I present cadets Subin Han and Tae Young Go. They are part of this year's incoming human class." Subin stepped forward and saluted. She was small and quick-moving, with intelligent eyes that reminded Hana of Ray Song. "Lieutenant, we have heard many stories about what happened here. We hope we can live up to the example you set." Tae-young nodded agreement. He was taller and broader than Subin, with the kind of quiet confidence that suggested natural leadership ability. "The academy is very different from what we expected. Many cadets have approached us to offer friendship and assistance." "That is good to hear," Hana said. "But remember that you are not here to live up to anyone else's example. You are here to create your own path and show the galaxy what you can contribute." She looked at the mixed group of alien and human cadets. All of you have the chance to build something better than what came before. Use that opportunity wisely. Later that evening, Hana attended a smaller gathering in one of the Academy's private dining rooms. The guests included her fellow human, graduates, several alien classmates who had become close friends, and some of the instructors who had supported the integration efforts. Commander Tholvin was present, looking very different from the hostile instructor Hana had first encountered. The Thrix officer had become one of the strongest advocates for diversity training and cultural exchange programs at the Academy. When I first saw humans at this academy, I saw only potential threats, he admitted during his speech. I was wrong. I saw strength and assumed violence. I saw differences and assumed incompatibility. The humans taught me that my assumptions were based on fear, not facts. He turned to address Hana directly. Lieutenant Kim, you did more than survive an assassination attempt. You opened our minds to possibilities we had never considered. The Academy is implementing new programs to ensure that future classes learn from your example. Dr. Yejin Lim, the human medical officer, stood to share some statistics that showed how much the Academy had changed. Human applications have increased by 300% since the incident. But more importantly, applications from all species have increased. Young beings across the galaxy want to attend an academy that values diversity and courage. The evening continued with stories, jokes, and plans for the future. Hana learned that June Park had been assigned to a prestigious posting with the Galactic Defense Force's Special Operations Division. Ray Song would be working in intelligence gathering, using her skills to prevent future conspiracies before they could threaten innocent lives. As for Hana herself, she had received orders to report to the GDF Training Command. Her new assignment would involve developing joint training programs for mixed-species military units. The galaxy was recognizing that different species brought different strengths to military operations, and they wanted those strengths to complement each other, rather than work in isolation. But before she left for her new posting, Hana had one more responsibility at the Academy. The administration had asked her to serve as a mentor for incoming human cadets, helping them navigate the challenges of being part of a diverse military organization. 2 days after graduation, she met with Subin and Tae Young in the same study room where she had first learned about the conspiracy months earlier. The room looked the same, but the atmosphere was completely different. There was no fear or secrecy now, just honest conversation between fellow humans. What should we expect? Subin asked directly. We know the Academy has changed, but there must still be some cadets who distrust humans. There are, Hana admitted, but they are a small minority now, and they mostly keep their opinions to themselves. The bigger challenge will be managing expectations. What do you mean? Tae Young asked. Some cadets now expect humans to be superhuman, Hana explained. They have heard stories about our strength and endurance, and they think we can do impossible things. Others expect us to be perfect examples of courage and morality. Both expectations are unfair. She leaned forward, speaking earnestly. You are here to be soldiers, not symbols. Focus on your training, support your teammates, and remember that you represent humanity every day. But do not try to be more than human. Just be the best humans you can be. Subin nodded thoughtfully. What about the physical differences? Should we hide our capabilities like you did at first? No, Hana said firmly. That was a mistake I made out of fear. Be honest about what you can do, but also be honest about what you cannot do. Help others understand that human strengths come with human weaknesses, just like every other species. They talked for another hour about practical matters, which instructors were most helpful, how to navigate social situations with alien classmates, and what to do if they encountered prejudice or hostility. Hana shared everything she had learned about building bridges between species and cultures. As the meeting ended, Tae Young asked one final question. Do you think humans will truly be accepted as equals in the galactic military? Hana thought about everything that had happened since she first arrived at the Academy. The fear, the prejudice, the assassination attempt, and the gradual change in attitudes that had followed. Acceptance is not something that happens overnight, she said. It is built one relationship at a time, one act of courage at a time, one moment of understanding at a time. You two are part of that building process. She stood to leave, then turned back to the young cadets. Remember that the galaxy is watching how this experiment in diversity works out. Make sure they see something worth celebrating. A week later, Hana stood on the observation deck of a transport ship watching Station Vega 7 shrink into the distance. She was heading to her new assignment, ready to apply everything she had learned about leadership, cooperation, and the value of diversity. Her personal communicator chimed with an incoming message. It was from Kirish, who would be staying at the Academy for advanced crystalline engineering studies. The new human cadets are settling in well, the message read. Subin has already impressed her instructors with her analytical skills, and Tae Young stopped a fight B,